Hi everyone, I am Dr.V.VIJI, Associate Professor, PG and Research Department of Economics, A.D.M. College, NAGAPATTINam. Today we have to see poverty. Economists, they have to define in different ways of poverty. Now we have to see the formal meaning of poverty. It is lacking of basic needs like food, shelter, education and health care. It is the inability to safety one's basic needs because one lacks income in buy services or from lack of access to services. Poverty is about not having enough money to meet basic needs including food, clothing and shelter. However, poverty is much more than just not having enough money. According to the World Bank definition, the World Bank organization describes poverty in this way. Poverty is hunger, poverty is lack of shelter, poverty is being sick and not being able to see a doctor. Poverty is not having access to school and not knowing how to read. Poverty is not having a job, is fear for the future, living one day at a time. Poverty has many phases, changing from place to place and across time, and has been described in many ways. Most often, poverty is a situation. People want to escape, so poverty is a call to action for the poor and the wealthy alike. A call to change the world so that many more may have enough to eat, adequate shelter, access to education and health, protection from violence, and a voice in what happens in their communities. In addition to a lack of money, poverty is about not being able to participate in recreational activities, not being able to send children on a day trip with their schoolmates or to a birthday party, not being able to pay for medications for an illness. These are all costs of being poor. Those people who are barely able to pay for food and shelter simply can't consider these other expenses. When people are excluded within a society, when they are not well educated and when they have a higher incidence of illness, there are negative consequences for society. We all pay the price for poverty. The increased cost on the health system, the justice system and other systems that provide supports to those living in poverty has an impact on our economy. There are multiple types of poverty. Now let us see one by one. Situational poverty, generational poverty, absolute poverty, relative poverty, urban poverty and rural poverty. Now we have to see one by one the situational poverty. Situational poverty is very common and something you or someone you know may have experienced. There may have been a jobless, a divorce, or maybe a health crisis that causes you to be economically unstable. We have seen a lot of families who have experienced this during the pandemic, specifically families who are in service and tourist industries. There are so many families that were living to pay check, then had and even like a jobless and become so much more economically unstable. Next one is generational poverty. Generational poverty is defined as being part of a family that has been living in poverty for more than 2 generations. This is different because if you have grown up in poverty, there are certain thoughts, process, way of being, and ways of knowing that will differ from if you have been brought up, say, in the middle classes. What we see is you are constantly in survival mode and rather than being able to plan for your future and problem solve. Oftentimes you are living in a toxic stress kind of environment where you are in survival mode This can shape a generation and become a cycle that is very hard to get out of. Absolute poverty. Absolute poverty is defined as an absolute lack of resources, including food insecurity. The United States has one of the highest rates of food insecurity in developing nations. This also includes homelessness and lack of access to health care. Relative poverty. Relative poverty is defined as living at about 50% or below the average income. You may not be wealthy and might be living, but you have food on the table. However, in comparison to others around you, you are certainly struggling. Relative poverty usually is not as determinational to the health and brain development of a young child, but the emotional aspects can take a toll. The final two types of poverty are urban poverty and rural poverty. For example, and rural poverty looks a little different than it does in urban areas. In rural poverty, one of the main issues is there is not access to high-speed internet when the pandemic took children out of school. I would see parents lived up at schools picking up gained packlets of worksheets for 4 and 5 years old. If you were in an urban center, you might be meeting on Zoom with your teacher online instead of doing the worksheet packets. People in rural areas are often isolated and lack access to technology. Child care and education in urban areas, you may have more structural issues such as housing and safety issues, overcrowding, and sanitation. It is really important for you as a teacher or someone who works with children to really understand the different types of poverty. One of the things that I try to do when I talk to people, especially those who haven't experienced poverty, is first and foremost to explain that poverty is about the lack of resources. Many children who grow up in poverty are very much loved and the families have many strangers. Causes of poverty. The causes of poverty are multidimensional and they can categorized as economic causes, social causes, geographical causes, and environmental and climatic causes. First, we have to see the economic causes. Poor economic growth and development. Poor economic growth and development, poverty is widespread in countries with slow economic growth as a result of faulty government policy. Poverty is also caused by stagnant or slow moving economic progress. Increasing unemployment. An imbalanced population to job ratio can result in mass unemployment, which is a significant source of poverty. Increased and uncontrolled population is the most serious threat to unemployment related poverty in any country. Inadequate infrastructure. Inadequate infrastructural development promotes economic growth and as a result determines a place's poor positions. Reduced agricultural output. Unpredictable weather patterns may be to blame, inflationary pressures are exaggerated by lower agricultural output. Without a solid agricultural backbone, no country can achieve economic equilibrium. Agriculture accounts for a large portion of a country's economy, and it must be in surplus to keep poverty at bay. Inadequate industrialization in some areas. Industries generate jobs for the people who live in the area. Concentration of industries in a single state or location boosts employment in that area. but disadvantaged areas suffer from severe poverty. Inadequate industrialization leads to poverty since work prospects in that location are restricted when compared to part-time occupation. Industries also provide higher pay opportunities. Inadequate production of basic essentials. Any insufficient in the production of basic necessities results in poverty across the country. To avoid poverty, food and non-food necessaries production must always be sufficient. Resource deprivation. Resource deprivation, natural resources deprivation as well as imposed or situational deprivation can result in poverty. People are deprived of their desired lifestyle and work possibilities due to a lack of enough resources and opportunity, which pushes them into poverty. Uneven distribution of wealth and resources. A country with an uneven distribution of wealth and resources is more likely to be poor than one with an uniform distribution. Uneven concentration results in an extremely situation in which people are either neo-rich or poor. The whole economy and growth of a country are harmed by this imbalance. Natural resources that are underutilized. Natural resources are a gift from God, and a location with abundant natural resources is blessed. As a result, every location's natural resources must be fully explored and exploited in order to reap the full economic value. This should be government initiative to ensure that no one suffers from poverty as a result of underutilization of natural resources in any location. Inflationary economics. Inflationary economics impacts not only the impoverished but even the middle class of society. This means that more people are living on the edge of poverty. Economic inflation is tremendously harmful to a country's economy and affects people from all walks of life. A country's economy may also take a long time to recover from economic inflation, resulting in years of hardship. Social causes, that is untouchability, is an unfair social practice in certain of the country's most backward areas that denies individuals of the lower castes their democratic rights. They are rejected by society and forced into poverty. They are not permitted to seek general employment and are compelled to work in low-wage jobs. Unethical abuse of authority. When power is abused, it has a secret perspective and never aids the poor and disadvantaged. A corrupt administration would constantly seek to maintain the status quo in order to maintain greater influence over the populace. Another major source of poverty in corrupt countries is this. Ignorance and illiteracy are widespread. Illiteracy is another important source of poverty. People who are uneducated are unable to realize their full potential, and as a result, their earning opportunities are limited. They are unable to compete with their educated counterparts in a competitive culture. And as a result, they remain poor. People's ignorance is also caused by illiteracy. They are completely uninformed of all of the possibilities that modern civilization has to offer, and they live their lives in ignorance. Densely populated areas. Densely populated areas boost competition in the labor market. As a result, poverty emerges in any overcrowded area as competition rises and opportunities declines. Using the caste system. The caste system divides people in society depending on their occupation and prevents them from seeking work outside of their caste. A person from a lower caste, for example, will not be permitted to work as a businessman or dealer. The poorer become poorer as a result of this system, while the wealthy become wealthier. Another major source of poverty is an imbalanced and unfair system. High divorce rates and feminization of poverty. To eliminate the feminization of poverty, female gender in society should be given equal employment chances. Furthermore, high divorce rates result in poverty for women who are unable to sustain themselves due to gender inequality. Inequality of accessible opportunities. Poverty can be caused by societal inequality for a variety of reasons. In a society, all available options should be made available to everyone. Inequality causes the weaker members of society to be denied equal chances. Geographical factors. Population density. The poverty graph of a location is also determined by the population density of the area. When it comes to poverty, densely populated areas turn a bright red. Selective soil fertility. Soil fertility varies from place to place and is not the same in every region of a country. While the fertile parts have abundant agricultural produce, the infertile lands are naturally forced into poverty. Uneven distribution of fertile land. Uneven distribution of fertile land. Fertile lands are spread unevenly around the globe, which is a major cause of poverty in naturally unfertile areas. Local people benefits from fertile grounds since they can work in agriculture and do not have to look for work to make a living. Unfertile lands cut off the locals' access to the agricultural sector and eliminate these sources of work, which is one of the most popular among the village's ignorant residents. Varying farm output. Farm output changes from year to year and from season to season. A good year will yield a lot of fruit, but droughts and other natural disasters might limit the harvest. In difficult times, this variability also leads to poverty. Differences between rural and urban poverty. There are numerous differences between rural and urban poverty. The disparity between rural and urban lifestyles has various consequences in terms of poverty, for example, due to the high cost of living under the latter scenario. Poor people are more likely to survive in rural areas than in metropolitan ones. Droughts. Droughts is another climatic hardship that leads to poverty. Droughts last for long periods of time, wreaking havoc on farms and agricultural productivity. Droughts are a constant source of poverty in the majority of countries. Inadequate seasonal rainfall. Any irregularities in seasonal rainfall might lead to major poverty issues. Due to the lack of forecasted rainfall, agricultural produce is disturbed, resulting in inflation-related poverty. Other causes of poverty. Increased rate of rising population, less productivity in agriculture, less utilization of resources, a short rate of economic development, increasing price rise, unemployment, shortage of capital and able entrepreneurship, social factors, these are all the other causes of poverty. Overpopulation is a country which insufficient amount of resources like food and water will result in poverty in a country. With illiteracy, poor countries will cause the children to have no education in their life and unable to get a job to support their family. Now we have to see the effects of poverty. In effects of poverty are hunger, homeless, health problems, illiteracy, and without basic needs. In poor countries, most of the people dies because of poverty, as many died because of lacking in health care. This is the chart of poverty around the world. Map of world poverty by country showing percentage of population living below national poverty line. Solution to poverty. So many causes are there. Now we have to point out some solutions or how to reduce poverty in the nation. Do charity work and accumulate money and donate to the people in countries facing poverty. Providing free shelter, food, health care, education and drinking water for them. Reducing government taxes for the village who are facing poverty, especially commodity taxes. Now we move on to the conclusion of the poverty. Poverty can be reduced if jobs creation for the poor family so they can earn a living and provide more opportunity for more children to be educated. Therefore, social entrepreneurs are helping out, trying to prevent poverty from increasing employment opportunities of them. Thank you.